Welcome back to another episode, everybody. My name is Aaliyah Samuel, and we are here back at it again with another episode of Black Sheep of the Burbs. Today, I have my cousin here with me. Her name is Simone. She's also from Trinidad, and she is also
Clinical therapist.
A clinical therapist. So please join me in welcoming Simone Ayala to my show.
Yay!
Yay! So, Simone, do you want to start by telling our audience, like, a little bit of background on, like, how you grew up and everything? Because, you were born and raised in Trinidad until you came up here to the States. Yeah.
Of course. So, up until, I think, 14, I was raised in Trinidad and Tobago. Mm-hmm. Happy Independence Day for my
Happy Independence Day to the Trinis.
And when I think I was going on 14. My family decided to migrate to the U.S. Mm-hmm. Did not like that idea. But my family thought it was the best decision at the time. It was a big culture shock for me because coming to the States, I left my friends. I left other family members. I left my dog, my home, the beaches, the food. It was just very, very different. It was very hard. I love the warm weather, like coming to Chicago.
Yeah.
It's cold.
Can you talk about that actually? Like, what was your first time, like, ever experiencing snow? Because in Trinidad, there's only, like, 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. So there's sunny season and then there's rainy season. Yeah. So, like, tell me what it was like to experience, like, your first snow.
I didn't like it.
Like your first snow
day. I did not like being cold. I mean, it's nice when you're inside and it's falling. It's like, oh, that's pretty, right? But I did not like wearing gloves and scarves and the things you would put under.
Yeah,
long johns.
The long johns,
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I hated it. I just wanted to go home. Like, I wasn't a fan. Mm-hmm. Still not really a fan, but it's pretty when you're inside.
It is, yeah. When you're inside, we don't like the cold weather over here. Yeah. Oh man.
But no, it was a really drastic change. The people were different. The culture was different, and I just kind of went through a culture shock for me.
Okay, so like, what was the culture shock like for you? What was like so like different? What was like vastly different between America and Trinidad?
So other than the food and like the climate, it was just kind of the community. Like, nothing against how people live here, but it seems like it was just more individualistic, right?
Yeah.
So coming from Trinidad and Tobago, people were very community based. So I lived in a home where 2 houses over was my aunt. My grandma was like a couple houses down, right? Yeah. I lived in a village. So, and all the neighbors, everyone knew everyone. Everyone would speak to everyone. And then coming to America, it was just like people kind of stayed to themselves.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I would say good morning, and people wouldn't respond, and it would just be really weird. I also
like they keep walking without really like saying good morning back, and like I feel like that's one thing that's like been so like deeply rooted in our culture is respect, and like just being able to say hi, say good morning. That's like heavily stressed upon us. So like when you're like up here and you're saying good morning and stuff, you realize like not everybody is that friendly to like really say good morning back.
Yeah. And that was a really big shock for me because I remember being a little girl and not saying good morning to like Mr. Johnson, who was on his porch in Trinidad, and my mom found out and my dad found out, and it was not a good day for me after they found out that I didn't say good morning, but here people just would walk by, you would say good morning, and they would just look at you like and not speak, and it was just very different. And my accent, so I had a really strong accent, and people would ask me all the time, like, what are you speaking? Like, speak English. I'm like, I am speaking English. So that made me like really internalize a lot of things, and I became very like introverted. I remember that was a really sad and lonely time for me because I didn't have my friends and nothing was familiar. Yeah. So I kind of stopped talking for a little bit. Yeah.
So like when you came up here, what was something that was said to you a lot by the other students, like when you started going to school?
Yeah, that was really difficult. So when I came up here, I had no awareness of like the racial issues in America.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so everyone wanted to know what I was. Like that was a huge thing. Like I remember going to school and people saying, "What are you?" And I would, like, "What? Like, what are you?" And then they would tell me what I was before I would even answer. So they would say, "Oh, you're just an Oreo," which I didn't even know what an
Mm.
Oreo
Uh-huh.
was.
So for my audience, if you guys don't know what an Oreo is, it's a term used to call someone who is physically black, kind of like black on the outside but white on the inside. So
So it's not just the cookie, right?
it's not just a cookie.
Yeah, I figured that out the hard way. But yeah, a lot of kids would call me Oreo. But they were very obsessed with what are you? Who
Mm-hmm.
are you? And I would say I didn't know how to answer that question because I was just me, you know.
Right.
Um, but I would have people tell me go back to where you came from, like what are
Mm-hmm.
you talking? And I just really had a hard time trying to figure out like where I fit in because I just felt like I didn't belong.
Uh-huh.
And they did not help at all
With that, yeah,
with
they
that.
never really made you feel included, pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I mean, I feel like even for me, like growing up in a predominantly white school and with me being Caribbean, that was asked pretty frequently too.
Mm-hmm.
But because with my phenotypes, obviously they just kind of look at me and they're just like, oh, she's light skinned and she's black.
Yeah.
Um, I have had like times where I've brought my lunch in,
Yes.
and I've had like curry chicken and
Yeah.
rice, and I get questioned, based off the food that I bring, because they're like,
Yeah.
why is the chicken yellow? And I have to explain to them like it's just the food that I
Yeah.
grew up with. It's curry chicken, and they're like, oh, it smells nasty, it smells gross, and then before they try it or anything, they kind of
Yeah.
just look at the food and then they judge you for it.
Yeah. I've had similar experiences with that too. Just people not knowing really anything about Trinidad. At least when I came here, Trinidad wasn't really known. Like
Oh yeah.
in the islands, it's just Jamaica, right?
Uh-huh.
So I would then say, I'm from the islands, and people will say, "Oh, you're Jamaican.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, do you smoke weed?" No, I don't. Like
Uh-huh.
I'm a kid, right?
Right.
And Trinidad and Jamaica are very far apart. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
we're all islands in the Caribbean, but very different culture.
Mm-hmm.
So like you spoke about the food, right?
Yeah.
So the roti, the doubles, right?
Absolutely.
Yum. Thinking about it.
Delicious.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when people aren't familiar, they judge, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's what the kids were doing at the time. And that was hurtful because, instead of asking curiosity, like just asking, it would be an ask and then they would answer for you.
Of course. Yeah.
And that was the hard part because they didn't give me a chance to really even answer for myself.
Uh-huh, for sure. Yeah. And I feel like, even in general, I think a lot of problems that come from the black community and also kind of the white community as well is that they always try to label you as something before.
Yes.
And even when you try to explain what you are, you're still like kind of criticized, and then they still tell you like what you are. I feel like with certain examples, that you see with celebrities might be like Cardi B or
Mm-hmm.
with Tyla got a lot of hate just simply because of the fact that she said that
Right.
she was colored.
Yeah.
So in Africa, if people don't really know this, they tend to, call themselves colored. If
Yeah.
you're mixed, they will call you colored.
Colored,
That's
yeah.
just how it is, in Africa. That's how Tyler grew up. That is, how she was known. She was colored.
Kind of like we have Douglas and stuff
Uh-huh.
in Trinidad.
So,
Okay.
so in Trinidad, we have a term that we use called Dogla, which is basically mixed race between blacks and Indians.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're, mixed between those two, they will call you a Dogla. It's not necessarily like derogatory. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a similar. It's basically like saying that someone's mixed in the United
Yeah.
States. So I feel like there's there's a lot of different cultures, and there's a lot of different ways that they kind of explain
Yeah.
racial ethnicity and like ethnic groups. So I just feel like, if we're gonna be listening to, these celebrities or just people in general, I think it's definitely very important to, just hear them out when they're talking about their race, because they know what they are.
Yeah.
You can't really tell somebody what they are. If that's how they grew up and that's how they're known, then, you just gotta let them be.
Yeah, I agree. I think, just learning a lot about American culture, because I really try my best to understand. Because, I had a really difficult time with the people that look most like me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I, especially, and I don't want to get stuff for this, but, especially African American women, like, it was really hard. Like, they were really
Mm-hmm.
cruel to me, and I couldn't understand why, because I felt like we looked the most alike.
Yeah.
So what is the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was almost like I wasn't black enough, right? Like,
Yes.
oh, you wouldn't understand. Oh, you're not from here, and it'd be like, oh, okay. Not saying I am, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a different culture, but we can still have understanding. But they give me a really hard time, and I agree with you. I think there's this thing that happens in America for some people, not all of us, but we just look at people and we put them in a box and we assume that we
Mm-hmm.
know like their life, their culture.
Right.
But we're all different,
Mm-hmm.
right? So even in Trinidad, like you said, like there's Douglas, right? Like some people might
Right.
eat more roti and doubles and stuff, yummy. When other parts of my family, they, rice and meat and, cassava and different things,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Um, but if you learn about Trinidad culture, it's really truly
It's
like
a
diverse.
blend.
It's a
Yeah, it's a
blend.
blend.
Um, so I never grew up with my parents sitting me down and saying, "Hey, you're this, you're
Mm-hmm.
that, you're just Simone," you know?
Mm-hmm.
So coming to America, everyone wanted to put me in a box.
Right.
And I didn't understand why. Like, would you treat me differently if I fit into the box you wanted me to fit in?
Mm-hmm.
If I use this title instead of this title? But then when I would say, well, I'm Trinidadian, it wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're just black. Oh, you're Oreo.
Mm-hmm.
Your mom must be white, right? These are
Mm.
the things I would
Yeah.
hear. So it was just very interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like for me, like, um, especially in school, just because, I was just trying to just make peace with everybody. Like, I just feel like when people came up to me and they were just like, "Oh, you're black," I'm just like, "Well, I mean, I
Okay.
am."
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
might as well, yeah, you might as well just say I'm black, because,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I am. But if I were to tell you that I am Caribbean American, you're gonna look at me and be like, "No, you're not." Or you're gonna try to put me in a different box, like you
Right.
said, and just kind of just like place an
Identity
identity
on
on
you.
me. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's always been hard. Even just being black in a white school is hard enough, and then to be black and Caribbean on top of that,
Yeah.
oh my god.
And not even that, right? To be able to try to find a balance between, okay, so I'm in America now. You're trying to learn that culture,
Mhm.
but you still want to honor yours, right? Because that's all you know. And people not really giving you space to do that because you're in a whole different
Oh
country,
yeah,
right? And Trinidad's culture is so beautiful, right? Like I love
for
my people,
sure.
I love my culture, but I mean, it wasn't only like the blacks, the Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, but I remember one time in high school, talking to a friend, and I was telling her like, "Oh yeah, my mom made roti," and she was like, "What?"
What is
And I
that?
was like, "Yeah," but she happened to be Indian, and she
Really?
was like, "You eat roti?" And
Mhm.
I was like, "Yeah." But she was so surprised. Like it just like shook her brain like,
Yeah.
"What do you mean?" And we had a conversation. I'm like, "Yeah, my family like this is what we eat." And she was just so surprised cuz she thought like, "Well, only we eat that."
Mhm.
So in a way it was good that when people asked and they really wanted to learn, I
Oh
had no
yeah.
problem like sharing my culture,
Mhm.
but it was the people who would just ask you and then put you in a box anyways.
For
No, you're
sure.
not. You're just
Yeah.
Jamaican,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. So then like for you, in high school, cuz 14, you were like what, like a freshman? Like you had
Yeah.
just started high school pretty
Yeah.
much. So like what was the difference between like when you went to school in high school versus like your transition to college?
College
Did
was a
it get, sorry, oh my
Oh,
god.
no,
Like
go
did it
ahead.
did it get easier to deal with, or,
Um, hmm. Tricky word. You said easier. I think it got easier because I learned a little more about myself. So
mhm.
I think it got easier in that aspect where I became a little more confident, like
Yeah.
who I was, because I think there was a transition where it was like I didn't know who I was. I was a small little fish in this big pond.
Mhm.
And then as people were asking me these questions, like, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? It made me really think, well, who
Who
am
am I?
I?
Yeah.
So then I had to do the work within myself to like, how do I want to be seen? How do I see myself?
Mhm.
Um, and I started realizing I don't really care how people see me. It's how I see me, right?
Uh-huh.
Because people are gonna say whatever.
Oh
Like some
yeah.
people are gonna label me black, Jamaican, African, which I have no problem with any of those terms. Like whatever works for you.
Mhm.
But as long as I know who I am. So I
Mhm.
think it got a little easier in college. But there were experiences in college that didn't feel great. Like joining a sorority, experiences with people kind of judging you off the way you look,
Yeah.
um, guys kind of fetishizing the whole like Caribbean girl thing. I think Rihanna had just came out and stuff, so
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like the island girl, and it's
Mhm.
okay. It was nice, but it was still like, okay, like
Yeah,
what's
like
this about?
right.
Like,
No, literally, I've had a guy who like straight up told me, he was just like, "Yeah, one of the only reasons that I dated you was because you're Caribbean," and I just,
oh,
yeah,
oh,
basically, he
okay.
was just like, "Yeah, you're exotic. I like that."
Yes.
I'm like,
Yeah, no. Yeah. Gosh, at least he was able to admit it though, but
Yeah, not a lot of people do. But
yeah,
guys, I mean, from the mentality of guys, they always like to try something different.
new.
They like to try something new. Yeah.
Like we're toys, right?
Yeah. Aw.
Um,
Objectifying us.
yeah, exactly.
Uh,
But I mean, yeah, it got easier in some ways, but still had a lot of
yeah.
experiences that, just didn't feel good.
For
But I
sure.
think it grew me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the sorority a little bit? Like, what was that like?
Uh-oh.
Because I'm like, ooh, sorority.
Oh, you're trying to get me in trouble,
I need
huh?
the tea, girl.
So I'm not gonna say names.
Okay.
But no, so I knew nothing about sorority life, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my friend whose mom was part of a sorority, so she was gonna be a legacy or something like that.
Okay.
But she wanted me to go to this informational. So it's where they have a meeting and give you information about being in the sorority. And on campus at the time, the sororities had a luck. So one sorority you might find kind of like light skinned girls with longer hair.
Oh, okay.
The other ones you might find like maybe like more like chocolate beautiful girls with
Mm-hmm.
they had a look at the time. So I went to this meeting with my friend and we sat there and got information, and I thought, okay, it's pretty cool. Like they talked about history and stuff, but I wasn't really interested. My mom kind of viewed it as she's very religious, so she's like, this
Mm-hmm.
is very
Yeah, my mom
cultish,
says the
right?
same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, she
So
she made it very clear. She's like,
yeah.
"Hey, if you're going to college, you're not joining a sorority. It's very
Yeah.
culty."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. They took an interest to me, not so much my friend. Um, and I felt like it was a lot because of more like physical features. It wasn't
Mhm.
more like they got to know me, right? It was just
Mhm.
for the look.
Oh yeah.
And that was really interesting. I did not pledge that sorority or nothing against them. I have a lot of friends who are part of that sorority, and I think they do great work. Um, but for me, that just wasn't the route that I took because it
Mhm.
just didn't feel right. Because I wanted to connect with people for like who they were, not for
Right.
the
The
look of
look.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that happened a lot in college.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
A sorority, yeah. I don't know. It's just like when I think about sororities, I always think about the definition of a sorority and versus like what they actually do. I feel like, actions are supposed to match your words.
Yeah.
Now, for a sorority, it's supposed to be like a sisterhood, right?
Yeah.
And they're supposed to like what help you kind of like get together with each other and, like kind of help you advance your career, right?
Yeah. So a lot of the sororities that were started, especially like the historically black ones, were especially started when there was this time where um black women, black men couldn't like congregate together, right?
Mhm.
So um for like over 100 years now, like I know like the wonderful ladies of AKA, right? Alpha Kappa Alpha, like they would do a lot of work in the community. They would support each other. And this is when they weren't legally able to even like get together. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's pros and cons. Of course, I think we always hear a lot of the cons, right? Like with the hazing.
Oh
But
yeah. Mhm.
I do think there, there are organizations that do a lot of great things. But that's everything in life. Like
Mhm.
there's good and bad. I mean, I personally joined a sorority that I'm a part of. How that happened was just really organic. I
Mhm.
just met these girls and they actually happened to be from the Caribbean. They were Panamanian and
Nice.
we just started hanging out and our culture was kind of similar.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So we started talking and they never pushed, they never said anything about their sorority, but they would always be doing stuff. They would always be
Mhm.
volunteering and doing stuff. And I just remember saying one day, like, hey, where are you guys going? Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? And they're like, oh, like this thing, but you can't come to this. But, you know, if you want to get more information, we're having an informational at this time. And I was
Right.
like, oh, okay. But they never pushed anything on me. And I went to the informational. I got information. I was like, oh, I want to be a part of this. I like
Yeah.
this. Like, you
Yeah.
guys help out. You do a lot. And I don't know if they share this a lot, but like in college, like you have to keep your GPA up.
Oh
You have to do
yeah. Yeah.
community service.
Mhm.
Honestly, I think without my sorority sisters at the time, like college would have been really boring and
Yeah.
my grades probably wouldn't have been as good
Uh
because they
huh.
make you do like library hours. And
Okay.
I just think like we get a lot of negative, but there's also good
Mhm.
that goes with it.
Depending on the
It
sorority, or
depends.
okay.
It depends on the sorority. It depends on the chapter. It depends on the people
Uh
in the
huh.
sorority,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
we're all people. Like people are
For sure.
flawed,
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
but good and bad,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool though.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a lot of parties?
I mean,
It's
a
a sorority.
few.
You
Yes,
said a
it's a
few.
sorority. I mean, look, I can honestly say, like, even now, I still keep in touch with a lot of my. We say, we're sisters for
Uh
life.
huh.
So
Yeah.
now it's different, right? Like now we go to baby showers and housewarmings
Oh
and
yeah.
weddings,
Uh
right?
huh.
And we still are in each other's lives in some kind of capacity.
Right.
Um, at least for me, some people might just keep it college and then that's it.
Mhm.
But it's more about the bonds that you make. So
Oh
you can be
yeah.
a part of a sorority and it's really how you choose to make it. But I
Right.
think that's everything in life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
For sure.
But yeah, girl, there was parties.
Yay! Of course, like you said, it's a sorority.
Right.
So. Oh my god. Yeah, so like with that being said, like, with college, obviously, college comes with dating experiences and,
Hmm.
especially after college,
We going there?
there's a bigger journey of dating right after. So, do you want to like talk about what it was like, like your dating experience, like especially how we mentioned, the
Oh, the fetish.
fetishization of,
Yeah.
island gals.
Yeah, island gals.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, for me, dating was never really difficult
Mhm.
when, I mean, not to like toot my own horn or anything, but I feel like guys were actually way more understanding than the women.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if they cared that much, like to put me in a box.
Yeah.
Maybe they were caring about other things, clearly,
Mhm.
but I never really had a struggle with that, except for this one experience I had that was really interesting to me, and I can't judge. Maybe you'll tell me what you think, okay? So I
Okay.
was dating this guy for a while, and I mean, I really liked him. I believe he really liked me, and it was Thanksgiving. And he wanted me to come meet his mom and have Thanksgiving with his family. And I was really nervous because although I had been in America for a while, my family, Thanksgiving, we still ate the same stuff, right?
Oh,
It's same Trini food, right?
Kalaloo,
Yes.
macaroni pie,
Yes.
curry chicken, stewed chicken.
Yes.
Sometimes it could be ham hocks. I know there's deviled eggs a few times. Yeah.
But my mom will still make some bus up shot. She might put some rotis, so it's still, and if they did turkey, they still kind of did the like turkey, Caribbean style.
Oh, yeah.
So still a lot of Caribbean food.
Right.
So I like to say like, we accommodated and assimilated well, but we still kept, our culture. So I went to his house and I'm nervous. I'm so nervous. I'm meeting his mom, right? So I'm like, oh, this is serious, but I'm nervous. And, it's dinner time, and I'm looking at the table, and there is no kalaloo and no rice and no bus of shot, right? But there's, like, mashed potatoes. I know mashed potatoes, right? Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to get some mashed potatoes, right? So I get my mashed potatoes and stuff. And his mom was like, oh, so you're not going to eat anything else? And I was like, oh, no, I'm good. And she was like, so you don't want no greens and you don't want, and she was like naming all like cranberry sauce and all these things. And I was like, because I didn't know these things. So I was like, oh, no, I'm good, trying to be polite. And she was like, like just kind of, I could tell she wasn't
like
pleased.
Like judging you in a kind of way.
I felt so. So he says, Ma, she doesn't really know. Like, she's from the islands. And she was like, what? And he was like, she's from the islands. And she goes, okay, so she's just black. But it was the way she said it.
Yeah, I think from her perspective, like, she was a black woman. She probably was, like, looking at you like, oh, okay, like, she's one of us. She's black, you know? So she probably assumed that you, like, already knew, like, what the foods were. So, like, when you only picked out the mashed potatoes, she was like, girl, you're not going to eat anything else. Like, but I feel like, if you explain, like, hey, I'm Caribbean, I don't really, like...
I mean, I felt like he was trying to, but the way she said it was like, she just black, and it was like, I just felt so depleted, like, at that moment, because it was like, I'm just trying to be polite, because I don't want to take something and not eat it, you know?
That makes sense,
And he's just like, trying to explain to her, like, oh, like, she's from the islands. And she was just like, well, no, she's just black. And it just kind of, maybe it was triggering to me because it reminded me of, past high school, where people are just like, well, you're just black. You should know this. You should do this. And I'm like, yes, I have no problem with being black, people. Black is beautiful.
Oh, for
okay?
Sure. 100%.
Nothing is wrong with it. It's just that just because I am black does not mean that we share the same culture, the same food, the same language. Yeah. So it was just hurtful. And a couple weeks later, he broke up with me. So I don't know. I started thinking,
like, over that, or like,
well, I mean, he didn't say it was that, but I remember thinking, is it because his mom didn't like me, right? So I don't know if that's my thing. But I just felt like she didn't give me a chance. Like, it was like I wasn't black enough. And that happened a couple times when I was dating, where I felt, especially with African American men, it was like I wasn't black enough really for their families. Yeah. Not for them, but their families. The families, would, like, realize, oh, you're from the islands or something? Like, oh, okay. Like, well, you're not one of us. So, no, we don't want anything to do with you. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I feel like, for me growing up, it was, I was just getting pounded from both sides. Okay. Both sides. I mean, black, white. I never really, like, dated a Caribbean guy before. I always wanted to. Oh, well. Yeah, there's not a lot here, right? There's not a lot. I don't got a whole lot of options. Right. But from the black side, it's like you said, it's like you're not black enough. So, like, while you said, like, while the guy might not care, the people around him might be like, she's not really black for real, you know? Or, like, even when I was in church, I think, because, my parents are Pentecostal, very religious,
So with growing up in a Pentecostal church, obviously it's like the majority of it is like 99.9% black.
Okay.
So, with me going to church every Sunday and, me kind of integrating myself with them, it was like, okay, like when I got there, it was just like, oh, okay, like she's black, but then when they learned about my parents and like they would hear my parents talk,
Yeah.
then it was like, it became more of, she's not really black for
Right.
real, and they kind of, I think there was one time we were driving up to Chicago and there was like a group of us. It was like a youth outing. And I just kind of had everybody asking me questions left and right. Like, are you even black? Like, your parents are from the islands. Like, like, oh, so you're mixed and da 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 da. And I'm like, okay, like, how do I even answer these questions?
Yeah.
And then it was like, for me being a kid, I didn't really know half of the answers to these questions either, until I had to, like, educate myself and, like, ask my parents some questions and then kind of figure things out on my own, that's when I was like, okay, well, yeah, I'm black, but I also am, Caribbean as well. Like I said, and like you said, too, they just kind of didn't really see me as black, even that's what I am. With dating and with going to a predominantly white school, dating white guys was that was its own experience of its own, because I didn't really think that they liked me. I think that they just liked the idea of me, or just like the fact that, like, oh, I'm with a black girl, or like I could say like, oh, I'm with a black girl, oh, I'm with an island girl or whatever.
Yeah.
But they never really treated me as if, like, they actually wanted to date me. It was just kind of like I was a prize. And then it came to times where if they felt comfortable enough around me, or even with just my friends, if they felt comfortable enough around me, they would start saying using the N-word and there was an experience that I had literally not too long ago where I went on a date with this white guy, and he was really sweet. Like, he was like, oh, you're so adorable, oh, you're beautiful, and da 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 da, and he like got me sushi and everything. It was a great time, but then it got to a point where he was on the phone with somebody.
Yeah.
And like before he got on the phone, like he was just kind of annoyed because it was work. And so he was just like, oh, like, nigga. And I was just like, and then he was like, oh, wait, no, I grew up around like, I grew up around black people or whatever. That's usually the excuse that they would use if they're, like, trying to be like, like, I can say the word. And he also tried to say that his family, or I guess some part of his family, is Native American, and they were also slaves. So I was just like,
come on,
I can't do this. I was like, listen, after the phone call, I was like, I'm gonna go home.
Thanks for the sushi.
Thank you for thank you for the sushi. It was really good sushi too.
Right.
But I was like, I'm gonna go home, but you enjoy your day. Wow. And when I went home, just because I'm not the type of person to like ghost somebody. I think when I was younger, I was more immature, so I was ghosting people. But I'm just at the stage in my life now where I'm just like, I'm gonna just let you know straight up, like, I'm not feeling this.
Good.
So.
So you told him.
I told him. I was just like, listen, like, I can't do this because, you're saying the N-word. I don't respect it. And, with the podcast thing that I have going on, like, why would I, talk about my brand and talk about, wanting to help people and, help people who are help people of color, like, navigate into a system and learn about what it's like to grow up around predominantly white people and how to deal with stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I'm dating a white guy who says the N-word.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I'm thinking about my future too, because I always say, like, if I'm dating someone, if this is long term, how is this going to look? If I have kids with him and my kids are mixed, are they going to get in trouble, and are you going to like use the N-word on them? Like, that's not okay with me. If you get mad with me and I'm your wife and you're disrespecting me and you like accidentally slip and you call me a nigga, like, ooh, I have to think about stuff like that. So I called it off. I was just like, I can't.
Good for you.
Yeah. Even in high school, I remember there was another time this guy was talking to me for like 2 days. literally like
Two
a
days.
couple days, you know, literally it's high school
It's
stuff,
high
so
school,
it's like,
so 2
you know,
days is a lot.
it was a lot of immaturity, but he was talking to me, and you know, everything was cool, it was a vibe, you know. I was like, I like your personality, he likes mine. So he asked me just randomly, he was just like, you know, do you like me? And I said, yeah, I said, I think you're cool and everything. I like your vibe. Like, I'm just like trying to get to know you. I was like, what about you? Do you like me? You know, I'm a little curious.
Yeah.
So, so then he was like, oh yeah, I like you, but ... I said, you like me, but
What's
what?
the ...
Yeah, he said, I don't date black women.
Oh.
So I saw him. I like vaguely remember this. I'm pretty sure people from high school, they could probably remember this. But I went up to him because he just pissed me off. Like, I mean, like I said, immaturity is high school.
Yeah.
I kind of like went off. I saw him in the cafeteria and I went off on him, and I kind of just like took a water bottle and like threw it at him.
Oh.
And then I walked away. That was talked about.
Oh, okay.
In high school. I was not playing no games, but yeah, like I said, it's high
how
school.
hurtful.
It was. And, you know, even for me, you know, I think the reason why I just typically don't really go for white guys that much is, yeah, like I said, just the experiences. And
Yeah.
I think when I was in elementary, I had a crush on this white boy for like a couple of years, like literally years. I was in elementary school moving fast as hell.
Real fast.
So there was this one guy, yeah, like I said, I had a crush on him, and there was another girl who had a crush on him, and she was like blonde, and she was like this white girl, and we were together at recess, and she like goes up to him, she's like, oh, can you tell me if you like me or if you like her? And so he was just like, oh, well, I don't really like either of you, but
okay.
He was like,
well, he was honest.
He was honest. He was like, I don't really like either of you, but, and then she was like, well, if you had to pick between the two of us, who would you pick? And he was like, I'd pick her. I was like, okay. But I realized, like, even growing up in high school and like having a crush on a white boy, you know, because that's all that was around me. If I had a crush on a white boy, they never liked me back because they would always pick, like, you know, the other like brunette or blonde white girl. It's nothing against them. I understand that's their culture and that's what they like, but I think a lot of times like black girls are just kind of like pushed to the side, and like people kind of tend to choose like a white girl, a Latina or something over a black girl, you know.
It's always so sad, right?
Yeah.
Like, just the color of our skin. Mm-hmm. It seems to be such a deterrent for some people.
Yeah.
But it's everything that people want to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, you know, when you were talking about your experiences dating, I can't say that I've had those because, I don't know, as you're talking, I'm like, wow, like, I have never been interested in white men.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I probably went on a date once, and it was a dare, like, speed dating. Yeah. And he was nice. He was fine. But in my mind, it was always like, I need to marry someone like my dad, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's what I envision. Now, my husband looks nothing like my dad, but I mean, something like my dad. And I just always felt like I needed to have someone who could understand, like, what I would be, at least have some understanding about what it is to go through being a woman of color in America. So
especially being Caribbean, I feel like that's one thing I always look for, black, white, regardless of like race, identity. You know, I always want somebody who's going to like understand my culture.
Like, you need somebody who's going to understand like whining and dancing and eating.
Understand, if I go to a fet and I start whining, listen.
Right.
That's my culture. Yes. That's my culture.
They gotta like soca. I mean, I do think there are other things that are way more important than skin color for sure. Like, you have to have someone who understands and actually really likes and enjoys your culture.
Of course.
And if you don't have that as a foundation piece, it's really hard. But I wanted to say, I think, you know, I was having a conversation with my friend, and she's from Ethiopia. And we were talking about this thing that I think has been just a construct that has been done for centuries, where people in the diaspora of, like, the Caribbean, Africa, like, are almost kind of taught to view African Americans in a negative light.
Yeah.
So when I was growing up in the Caribbean, I do remember like the only things I saw of African Americans were negative, right?
Yeah.
Or I mean the positives were like basketball.
Like TV and media, they try
right.
to like portray. I feel like they don't really portray necessarily the lives of black people, but they
Never.
Yeah, they just kind of portray the stereotypes, you know, like especially like with growing up with, you know, Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, a lot of the times the black side characters were always like very sassy, or you know, they played a sport, or they were like rappers or something. It was not really how black people are supposed to be portrayed. It was literally just stereotypes.
I mean, and they still do it, right? So I mean, they have their agendas. So when you come to America, your brain does this thing where I'm not like them, right? I'm not African American, so I'm not gonna be the thief or whatever they portray. And then you realize like, oh, this is a lie, right? Like this is their agenda. Like not all African Americans are like this. Just
of course, yeah.
No one group of people are, you know, thieves and, you know, rapists or, you know, but the media controls a lot. So that's what they would show. Yeah. So when I was having this conversation with my friend from Ethiopia, you know, she was expressing the same thing. She's like, you know, what we see over there is like African Americans, like really negatively. So when before you go to America, like you have people saying, don't hang out with them, don't do this, right? And then you come and you're like, wait, but these are my people. Like they look like me. Yeah. We share the same ancestry.
Right.
So and then you start learning like, wait, it's not how the news portrays it. So it's just a lot of mental psychology, a lot of games, and you have to be strong enough to do your own research. You have to be strong enough to educate yourself. Because if you listen to it, like you be quickly like you'll fall into those traps. But I'm so sorry you had those experiences. Girl, dating. Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I went through a lot to the point where it made me grow like a backbone, and it just kind of like forced me into a position where I had to learn about myself, you know, but it wasn't a bad thing. I don't look at any of the experiences that I've had as like a negative. I just look at it as, okay, I learned from it. I learned how to move so that next time, like, I know, like, kind of, I have, like, a better understanding of it. So I just know how to move better. Yeah, like I said, I just have, like, a strong backbone. So it's like, if anyone has something to say about me, about anything,
and
it's
they're
just
lost
like,
anyways. Look at you, you're beautiful. So it's their loss.
Thank you. So are you.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, like I also kind of wanted to get a little bit into the psychology about it. You know, since you're a clinical
therapist.
Clinical therapist.
Just clinical
therapist. Yeah. So, have you had, and obviously, like, you're not going to name any names because of HIPAA and everything, but, you know, have you had any, like, black clientele who have, you know, made it known to you that, like, how difficult it is to be black in America?
Oh, yeah. So I'm very privileged to be able to work with a very diverse group. However, I do have a lot of women, black women, Hispanic women, that often talk about the stress that it causes them to live in America. We're constantly under stress. So compared to the counterparts of like white women, black women, Hispanic women are constantly dealing with microaggressions, right? Every single day, right? At work, thinking about things that they don't have to think about, right?
Right.
I remember I had a client come in and, you know, in her 30s, so she's been on interviews, but she had just got her hair braided.
Okay.
And she sat in the chair for a long time. If you ever had your hair braided right, it takes a minute. But she just got this interview, and she was like, I need to take these braids out because it's with it's a white firm. And she's like, you know, I want to get this job. And I'm like, well, okay, well, why do you need to get your braids out? It's like, because they don't consider it professional, right? So, I mean, we know better. Like, her hair isn't going to determine if she can do her job or not, but the look of it. And
Yeah.
it was just so sad because I've been there. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was the girl who had my hair braided, and then I got an interview, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
Like, I gotta fix my
I gotta
hair.
fix my hair. Would
Yeah.
they hire me? Do I
Uh-huh.
look too, ethnic or
Uh-huh.
too black for them?
Right.
Because you want to get the job. That was a while ago. I've gotten to a place where I've accepted me, and if people don't accept me, then I don't need the job
Of
anyways.
course, yeah.
But it was hard, and people take different times to get to that place. Uh, and I mean, we worked through it, and it was her decision. Uh, I will say she decided to not take out her braids, and she
Mm-hmm.
got the position anyways.
Nice. Good for her.
Yeah, and good for the company, not
Yeah.
judging off of that. But the fact that we, as Black women, even have to think about that,
Mm-hmm.
is really sad,
It
especially
is, yeah.
now, right? You would think
Yeah.
that we've come a long way, but these things are still happening.
Of course. And that's why we're here talking about it, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
I think hair for women is like that's one of our biggest like physical attributes. Like like with women, we really care about our hair and how
yeah.
it looks, you know. Because I always say like if your hair's not done, it's gonna
That's
throw off
nothing.
your
Yeah,
entire look.
everything.
It's gonna
Hmm.
like, especially with men too, you know, like they get
Yeah,
haircuts and stuff, and you know if their haircut looks nice, it makes them look nice. You know, I think hair is a big thing.
yeah,
So it's like just the simple fact that, you know, with black people and, you know, with ethnic people with like coarse hair, the fact that we have to feel the need to straighten it or style it just to be able to get a job position, that's
I
ridiculous.
know.
And then I feel bad for, you know, the men too, especially because there's been a couple of times, like over the past few years, where I've heard about, you know, like athletes having to cut off their locks, or, you know, like
Right.
if a guy has like locks, they have to like cut it off in order to get a specific position. And it's just like locks are beautiful. Black people, like we
We're
have
being
beautiful
judged
hair.
based on our hair.
Yeah.
But I just recently did my research because I do love to learn, and
Mm-hmm.
there was a law. I can't remember the name of the law. Um, Not really that long ago, where in American history, the white women were getting very upset about the beauty of our hair, so they
Mm-hmm.
passed the law for us to cover our hair.
Uh-huh.
But we're so dope, like we even made that look good,
For
right?
sure.
So I think whatever they do, we always like rise above. But it is very hard to tell someone it's either you get a job and you're able to pay your bills and eat,
Mm-hmm.
or you got to change like who you are and your hair. And it takes a lot of work, and it takes you knowing yourself to make a decision to be like, no, I'm not going to do that
Of
anymore.
course.
And for
Yeah.
some people they can't, right? Like if they have to, but I just hate the idea of saying it's not professional. Like who
Yeah.
decides what's professional?
Right, versus what's not.
Not
Yeah.
right.
And then especially like, you know, I think that for the most part, well, not for the most part. Some white people are educated, but a lot of white people are not educated on black hair. So they don't know. They might think like because of like you said with TV and social media, you know, like having braids is kind of like, oh, you're ghetto or this that and the third. They see it as more of a negative, but they also don't know that, you know, braids and stuff, or like wearing wigs is also like a protective hairstyle for us, or, you know, even for the guys or the women who have locks as well, it's also a protective hairstyle where you don't have to like, you know, keep combing your hair every day,
Yeah.
or, you know, with us being Caribbean, there are,
Yeah.
you know, Rastafari, you know,
Yeah.
so
No,
yeah.
I mean, I said you're saying they don't know. I just feel like this, we're in 2025,
Hmm.
right? Like everyone has a
A
computer
cell
in their
phone,
hand, a
Google,
cell phone,
yeah,
Google, like,
Chat GPT.
right? Like if you don't know, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it's just, the idea of everything should be to their liking, right? And it's
Hmm.
control and conformity. So I don't know. I don't know if I maybe some people don't know. The people who are like under a rock or something. I think they're fully
Under a
aware.
rock.
I think they're fully aware of what they do. I just think, I mean, the people with power, like they abuse their power, right?
Hmm.
So we just have to be able to decide like what we're not going to stand up for, what we're
Of
not going to
course.
take and what we're going to stand up for.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot because a lot of times, a lot of things are at risk.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to eat, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, this job compared to, do I keep my hair in braids?
Right. Especially you got to think about the money. You
Right.
know, you have to
Yeah.
think about the money. Yeah.
So, I mean, I get it, but hopefully those things will be long in the past.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like that was another thing I wanted to mention too. Like was like friends. Like so like what was it like being friends like with different ethnic groups, like, you know, white people, Latinas, black people?
So in high school, I went to a really affluent high school. I went to Glenbard West,
Mm-hmm.
like Castle on the Hill, a lot of money. I mean, I think there was probably like 4 or 5 of us, people of color.
Wow.
So I was friends with, I had like a really eclectic group. So I was friends with a lot of the white girls, like, but the 4 other people of color.
Mm-hmm.
I think in college, I mainly gravitated to the people who I felt had similar cultures.
Yeah.
So, like Panamanian, Mexican, I feel like I gravitated more to like the Hispanic cultures tend to
Mm-hmm.
be very similar to the Caribbean
For sure,
cultures,
yeah.
like the Puerto
And they're very
Ricans.
welcoming too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my experience. But I mean, African Americans, I didn't discriminate. Like, if you were cool, I was cool with you.
Oh yeah.
But I would say I think it was just a little more difficult being friends with my white counterparts because there was a lack of understanding for certain
Mm-hmm.
things. So those relationships, though meaningful, would kind of fizzle off after a while. They didn't really endure as much as I can say like the friendships I have with like
Mm-hmm.
my other Caribbean people or Hispanic people, Asian, like, and I don't know if that's I don't know if it's necessarily I don't think it's really just a color thing. I think it's more a culture thing and
Mm-hmm.
family based because most Hispanic cultures that I know tend to be more family based, just like Caribbean
Yeah. Oh
cultures
yeah.
and Asian cultures. So I think that was where we had similarities and that's what drew
Right.
us together.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like I think I just want to give a shout out to the Hispanic community because really
Okay.
like I feel like, you know, and this isn't like to put like any other race down, but I feel
Yeah.
like, you know, with Hispanics or just people who like aren't originally from the United States, I feel like they're just more welcoming and more open, you
Okay.
know, to understanding different cultures and
Yeah.
different backgrounds. And like you said, I feel like especially with Caribbean culture and, you know, with Hispanic culture, um there, like you said, there's a lot of
So similar.
similarities.
Yeah.
There's so many similarities. So
Yeah.
it's just like, you know, we don't discriminate. It's not like, oh, I don't like Hispanics, like I don't like
Yeah.
that specific group. It's not like they're not like, oh, I don't like Caribbeans or anything like that. They're just like whoever you are. It's
Yeah.
like, come as you are, you're welcome.
Yeah.
And they have some good food too.
Right,
They-
yes,
Oh, listen, they
yes.
could bust it down in the kitchen.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. Maybe I should go for Hispanic next.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt,
Well, you got a Hispanic husband, hey. So what's that like too? You know, with you know, marrying into a different culture. You know, because
So-
she's married and she's got 3 beautiful kids.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Until like it was really brought to my attention, like I didn't really think it was so out of the norm.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually had one of my sorority sisters say, and she was at my wedding, and she was like, "Yeah, you guys are in a how did she say it?
An interracial
yes.
relationship. Yeah.
She's like, you guys are in an interracial relationship, and I was like, kind of taken back. I'm like, what? And she was like, yeah, and I'm like, she was like, girl, at your wedding,
Mm-hmm.
they were speaking Spanish and English when they give the speeches, and I was like, oh, and she was like, any place that I go to, you got to speak 2 different languages for the people to understand. Like, come on, that's interracial. And I was
Yeah.
like, I never like looked at these things. They have never been so important to me.
Mm-hmm.
You just like who you like, and you fall in
Of
love with who you
course.
fall in love with,
Yeah.
and you don't really think about it. And it was just so easy because the cultures are very similar, and family, food, music, right? Dancing, morals,
Oh
values.
yeah.
So I never really thought about it until it was brought to my
Attention.
attention.
Yeah.
Now, being married now, last week, 10 years.
Congratulations
Thank
on your
you.
anniversary, by the
Thank
way.
you. Thank you. Um, I can say I I notice it more because people bring it out, right?
Mhm.
So my husband happens to be Mexican American, and when he would go places, like people, would assume when he talks about his wife that I would be Mexican.
Mhm.
Um, I think, and don't quote me on this, but Mexicans tend to be pretty homogenous, right? So they
Mhm.
tend to stay within their
Their
own.
own groups. Yeah. Uh
Yeah.
huh.
So I would be showing up to weddings and I'd be showing up to quinces,
Uh
and
huh.
people would just be like, oh,
Like, that's your wife?
right,
Uh huh.
oh,
Like, I
es
didn't
tu
know.
esposa? I'm like, yeah, that's my wife.
Uh-huh.
Um, but they would be very, very kind and very complimentary. One of the best compliments I got one time, we went to a wedding, and this lady came up to me and she was just saying, like, she was like, and I was the only person well, I shouldn't say of color, right? But I was the only
Mhm.
black person there.
Mhm.
And she came up to me and she was like, I think it's so cool that you do all the dances, you do everything. Because, I mean, they were playing everything,
Oh
banda and
yeah.
everything. And I was doing the dances. I mean,
Right.
hey, I'm from the island, okay?
Listen, as soon as La Vaca starts playing, what? I'm on the
Right.
floor.
We're
I'm on the
dancing.
floor.
Um, but I love that because she was like, I really like that about you, that you just like jump in. And I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
he enjoys my culture. Like he just went to Trinidad for the first time last year and
Oh.
he loves it and he eats roti and doubles like nobody's business.
What?
So
Okay.
our children are, Trinidadian and Mexican. So I
Mhm.
mean,
They get the
we
best of both
they get the
worlds.
best
Oh
of
yeah.
both
Oh
worlds.
my god.
So we're very much into sharing our cultures with each other,
Yeah.
and um yeah, I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Oh.
Yeah.
So get a Hispanic man.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Okay.
saying.
Oh man. Ah, that's so cool though. Like just because I know you personally and like,
Yeah.
just like seeing like your children and like your family looks so like beautiful. I'm
Thank
just like
you.
this is such a beautiful family and it's
Thank
like
you.
yeah, like I just really I love the way how you guys like just come together and you like respect each other's culture and you
Yeah.
like teach your kids like, you're black, you're Trinidadian
Mhm.
and you're also Mexican. So and it's like nice to see you like taking them to Trinidad and like
Yes.
showing them. And I want to do that with my kids too. Like I want
Yeah.
to take them to Trinidad
Of
even though I wasn't
course.
born and raised there. I want to take them there and be like, "Hey, like this is where you came from, you
Yeah.
know?
This is your culture.
This
This
is
is
your
your
culture."
homeland.
Yeah, of
Like they
course.
have to. I mean, I always knew that no matter who I got married to, they have to love my culture.
Absolutely.
Um, they have to understand that I will be going home. They gotta understand like and I'm gonna do the same for theirs. And
Mhm.
I've been really blessed that he does that. I mean,
Mhm.
we've also been to Mexico a couple times. My kids are I like to say trilingual. Like they speak
Mhm.
Spanish. They speak patois, they speak
Actually,
English.
really?
Yes, they love all of it, and we tell them all the time that. I mean, I typically say you are what your mother is, so you're
Mhm.
Trinidadian, but no, no. I tell them like, yeah, you're Trinidadian, you're Mexican.
Mhm.
This is part of your culture. I haven't really had the conversations. I have a friend, she's African American,
Mhm.
and she, with all the things that was going on the last couple of years with like
Floyd?
George Floyd,
Uh-huh.
she was like, when are you going to have the conversation with your boys about like, being black in America and the
Yeah.
police? And I'm like, my kid is like, he's 8,
Yeah.
and she's like, yeah, like you need to have these conversations. And I I got scared. I'm
Mhm.
like, I just tell my kids that they're God's and God gave them, you know, me, and I'm supposed to teach them. And I don't really ever talk about race and like,
Mhm.
and then I started thinking, oh, did I mess up? Am I supposed to have these conversations a long time ago?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do they know what they are? Like, should they know who they are? So I remember asking my son, like, what are you? Like, and he was like, and he, he says his name, and I'm
Uh-huh.
like, okay, like, yeah, but like, what else? And he would say, because we always did affirmations, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
a therapist.
Oh.
Yeah. So he's like, I'm strong, I'm handsome,
Oh, that's so cute.
I'm
Yeah.
smart, I'm wonderfully, fearfully made. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, we're gonna stick with that for now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe when he gets a little older, um, probably pretty soon, it'll be a topic me and my husband will discuss and see how we want to address.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because we're naive to the
Mm-hmm.
fact that we are in America and it's
Yeah.
different rules. Um, he knows that that his culture is Trinidadian, Mexican. But I just also want to make sure that he has a full understanding of like who he is as a person and what's
Mm-hmm.
most important compared to like how the world will see
Oh,
him.
of course. Yeah.
Um, but I do understand, talking to my friend, her growing up in America is very different,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if that is something that has always been discussed since birth, right? Like you're this, you're black, you're this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you have to move like this. You operate very differently
Mm-hmm.
compared to someone who wasn't born here.
Oh, yeah.
So all respect to her, but I think, everyone has to do things in their own time and how they
Mm-hmm.
see fit.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm not ready for those conversations
Yeah.
yet. I don't know that I would even really um, say it like that, but I think in due time, I will have the words and I'll have those
Yeah.
conversations with
Especially,
them.
I feel like, with them being at the age that they are right now, I
Yeah.
think that they're still kids,
Yeah.
but it's very complicated. That's where the line is a little blurry because even though they're kids and you want to protect their innocence as a mother, um, at the end of the day, they're still living in the real world. And
Yeah.
times nowadays are so much different.
Yeah.
And it's like, even if it like an officer, if it's a racist officer, no matter if you're a child, no matter if you're like,
I
if you
know.
fit the description,
Yeah.
it's a tough world to live in.
I
Like,
know. But it's so hard, right? Like you said, it's so complicated
yeah.
because you ask, you when I ask my kids like what color are you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they go off of what they see, right? They
Yeah.
will say like, "Oh, like I'm brown,"
Yeah.
and I'm yellow, and he's dark brown or
Uh-huh.
they just go off of things like that cuz they don't
Like
understand.
race and
Right.
identity
And I
and
think even some
ethnicity. Yeah.
adults, like
Uh-huh.
we have a hard time like putting that together.
Yeah.
And even when we say the world, right, really this construct, and I'm not saying it's everywhere, it's not anywhere else because I haven't been all over the world, not yet.
Mm-hmm. Not
That's the
yet.
plan.
Right.
But not everyone lives with constantly thinking about this,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
So we went home for a month and the kids were just living their best lives, right? And not
Mm-hmm.
once did people bring up in any of my conversations as an adult like race and
Mm-hmm.
I cannot go a day in America without race being on TV, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
there's always something. So, you know, there's spaces where this is not priority for people. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like for me, I want my children to have as much as they can a similar childhood like I did, and I love my childhood. I
Mm-hmm.
just want them to kind of be free and not focus on
Right.
that and
Right.
who they are, right? Like with
Yeah.
the strengths they have. They're
Exactly.
loving, they're kind, they're
Yeah.
smart, those things
Oh yeah.
compared
Of
to,
course.
the color of their skin and
Yeah,
stuff.
you just teach them like, just be who you are. I
Yeah.
feel like, and I don't blame my parents or anything for, migrating to the United States because, like with my dad, when he came up to America, his thought isn't how are my kids gonna deal with
Right.
racism. It's okay, this is an opportunity for me and my family,
Yeah.
And when he met my mom and they got married, they stayed in Joliet for a little while, and then eventually they moved from Joliet to Shorewood. Joliet is typically more of a diverse area. So
Okay.
I always said, growing up, I was just like, oh, why couldn't we stay in Joliet? And, when I talk to them and I'm older and I understand their perspective, they're like, there are some parts in Joliet that are like a rougher area. Your dad was making, you know, decent money,
Yeah.
my parents were making decent money. So it was just like, okay, well, instead of living in this rougher area, we're going to try to give you a better
Move. Yeah.
lifestyle, and then, they just had me. So I'm the youngest and I'm the only girl. So for them, it was just kind of like, we don't really want her growing up in this
Yeah.
rough area. We
Yeah.
want our families to, at least get like,
Yeah.
opportunities. So they saw moving to Shorewood as an opportunity. And like you said,
Yeah.
in a Caribbean person's mind, like, race is not really a thing that is talked about all the time. In Trinidad, it's just like, you are who you are, and
Yeah.
that's just what it is. But in America, my parents aren't thinking about, oh, we're gonna be around all these white people.
Yeah.
How is this gonna affect our kids? Because to
Yeah.
them, race is just race. If they're white, whatever,
Right.
know.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. We just moved a couple years ago too, and it was something we thought about, bringing up kids. We wanted them to be in a diverse area just because knowing what, we went through, and just we wanted them to see how the world looks like, right?
Yeah.
Because people, okay, so I have this thing about the word minority, right? I don't know where that came from, but I don't use that word
Yeah.
because I'm not a minority, and people that look like me are not the minority. We're actually really the majority in the world. So I hate using that word, but I like I let my kids travel a lot. We travel a lot because I want them to see the world because not everyone looks like them, and there are a lot of people that look like them.
Oh yeah.
And there are a lot of different cultures and food, and at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all people.
Of course, yeah.
And that's most important. And I really wanted us to move to an area where they would see people that look like them, they would see people that did not look like them, and it would grow them, right?
Yeah, and I feel like in a way too, when you're growing up with only like one racial group or one ethnic group, you don't really see a lot and you don't learn a lot. I think for me personally, when like I learn the best like when I'm kind of like around different groups of
Yeah.
people. I think I feel like that's why Americans typically don't really have a lot of education on terms of like different cultures. Different backgrounds
Yeah.
and stuff, because they don't really affiliate themselves around like different people. That's the way you're going to learn about
Yeah.
different things, and it's a beautiful thing to like you said, like you wanted to travel the world,
Yeah.
to explore and to meet different places who do things differently from you. You learn a lot.
You learn a lot
if
more
you
than
go
you would
out.
learn
Exactly.
in a textbook. Yes.
Of course, more than you do, like, if you were just in one place all the time. And I always say, too, we're literally on a floating rock.
Yeah.
We're on a floating rock
So
in the
they
middle
say.
of space, right? And then it's like we have a whole world to explore, and we
Yeah.
have, like, a good, like, the human lifespan is usually about 80, 90 years.
I know.
Give or take. We don't know how that's going to look now, but that's the average lifespan. So I believe if I have enough time here on this world, like, why not explore? Why not go see other people, see other cultures, learn more? That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
I don't like stagnancy. I don't like just being set in one place. There's so much to learn.
Yeah, and representation matters. I think it's important for you to see people that look like you doing things. I remember having friends who said they never had teachers that look like them.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who became a teacher because she never had a teacher that was Black.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Wow.
Yeah. It was literally like, I remember one time in like 5th grade, I saw like my first Black teacher, and she was like a substitute. I looked up to her so much because
Wow.
all of my teachers were white.
Yeah.
All of them were. And to see someone who looked like me, to be in a position where they're a teacher, and, even if it was a substitute, I was just so happy just to see someone who looked like me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then over at my school too, and I did talk about this a little bit on my first episode of the podcast. It was me and my friend Eli, and at school they had a board meeting. So essentially, allegedly, the situation was that we had this committee, and they were trying to, I guess, come up with plans to diversify Manuka.
Okay.
So there was one lady on the board. I can't really name her name, but there was a lady on the board who was basically against it, because she said that she didn't want a Black person teaching her daughters or something that was going to Manuka or around the district as well.
Wow.
So I guess my principal at the time had ended up speaking up about it, and they're usually not allowed to say anything regarding what happens in these board meetings.
Okay.
So the word went around, he ended up getting fired or something.
Oh.
So I just remember it was a day and at the time, I didn't really have my phone a lot. I got my phone taken a lot. I was a badass kid. I really was. I had my phone taken a lot. So I didn't know what was going on, but everybody was like, like we're all wearing like orange or whatever to support, the principal. And they're letting me know what's going on. So they said like, oh, there's a board meeting that's happening. So we're going to go to the board meeting after school and just kind of show our support and like, stand up against this, because the only Black teacher that we had in my high school, he was a gym teacher, and he was really nice to me. Like, I really enjoyed just like being around him and stuff. Like I said, I love seeing Black people who are like taking these positions, because I just like to see that there's someone who looks like me teaching,
Yeah.
So all eyes were basically on him, so it was a very atrocious situation, but I would say one thing is that I'm very heavily proud of the community of Manuka for handling that situation, because that board meeting, a couple of hundred people showed up, and it went from being in like this like small common area in our high school to literally they had to move it to the auditorium. Because that's how big the crowd was. ABC 7 News was there and everything. So yeah, but eventually she ended up resigning from the position.
Like she should.
She should, yeah. Because it's ridiculous to me. It really is. Like how...
we're not going to be able to change everyone's heart, and people have their beliefs. But I think I like that story because it shows that not everyone thinks the same, and there are, allies and people who think differently, and the more the more you can grow. I just think that America has a lot that it hasn't taken accountability for. And until that happens, there's always going to be people who are going to be negative. There are always people who are not going to like you because the color of your skin, the texture of your hair, really because of the power that we have. But I mean, we're here. So, and that's not changing.
Yeah.
Representation matters.
It does.
And I mean, we're going to be representing. I feel like I have been really blessed to be able to grow up in Trinidad and Tobago, and also have the experience of growing up also in America. I saw both. I appreciate the lessons I've learned from both. But I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I think people are people, right? People are flawed. But I hope we do better, right? I feel like these conversations could go on like, oh my gosh.
I can talk about it for hours.
Oh, for hours, days, okay. Yeah. But I mean, for the most part, I just hope that we make progress, right?
I do see like, like how you mentioned the George Floyd era, to just, even with my situation and like seeing my school, have the board meeting and so many people coming out, I think with my generation and the millennials too, especially, we are outside. We are literally like activists. Like, hey, we're not gonna stand for. If you say the N word, if you're saying like words that are derogatory towards another ethnic group, get out.
I hope so. I do. I see you guys. I mean, I'm considered a millennial, so I'm not that old, right?
No.
But no, I see the younger generation, you know, doing their thing and making it be known like, no, we're not gonna tolerate for this. Where I think a lot of other generations, maybe like the boomers, kind of, not to call people out, but I mean, you know, we gotta be honest, right? To face things. Kind of allowed a lot of things to be, and now I think people are tired, right? Like, we know enough, and we're not gonna fall for the propaganda. So I mean, I just hope that we keep growing, but we know that there's always gonna be people who are gonna be negative. So just let the positive like outshine the negative.
Of course. And then I'm going to end on that note. Just to say that, like, you know, thank you for coming onto the show. Like, I really do like your perspective. And I do really look up to you as, you know, just for you, like, having the same cultural background as me, and, like, for you to, you know, be educated and, like, really smart and, like, really pretty. And a beautiful family. I'm just like, I love Simo so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you so much. This conversation, like I said, it's really important to me, and it's really cool to just get the truth out there and just, you know, bring honesty to the situation so we could change things. I feel like that's the only way we're going to, you know, really, you know, like change the way things are, is just by sitting down and having conversations like this. You know, it could teach people a lot. It could educate people. So yeah, thank you so much, Simone.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
And that is the end of the episode of Black Sheep of the Burbs. Thank you so much for watching episode 3. Stay tuned.